FL-370. 37,000 feet. The cabin hum is steady, until it rips apart. A bang like metal lightning. The Boeing 777 lurches. Masks whip down and snap like teeth. Luggage rockets from overheads and slams into arms, faces, the aisle. Babies scream. Someone prays in Spanish. The lights strobe, then smear into a sick green pulse that makes time feel elastic. You've never felt gravity hunt you before. Now you feel it hunting. Seat 14C doesn't move at first. Brown hair tucked behind one ear. Plain blue sweater. Jeans. Comfortable shoes planted square. A paperback about gardening lies open to a chapter about roses. She closes it with two calm fingers, like leaving a coffee shop. Why is calm scarier than panic? Why does a closed book sound louder than the alarms? Another jolt. The jet drops hard. Oxygen burns cold as passengers claw their masks. The aisle becomes a river of elbows and rolling bottles. A businessman in 14B grips his armrest and wheezes. Is this? He can't finish. No one can finish anything. The PA spits static. A flight attendant tries to stand and is thrown backward into the galley wall. She pushes up again. Brave. Alex Morgan, nobody here knows that name yet, stands. She is 38. She looks 38 and ordinary and like a schoolteacher on spring break. She slides the paperback into the seat pocket. She reaches for nothing. She walks. A man blocks the aisle with shaking knees. She touches his shoulder. He notices her eyes and moves. The cockpit door is ahead. A piece of carry-on tumbles by like a slow bullet. Ma'am, sit, please. The attendant gasps a handout. Alex's voice is even. I need the flight deck. No badge. No swagger. How does authority sound this soft? Have you ever watched someone take a room without asking? Have you ever felt your heartbeat slow because a stranger said, "Do this"? The jet drops again, half a second of weightlessness, then slams. Someone yells, "We've got 3 minutes to die." It's a rumor said like a math problem. Another silent beat as eyes meet eyes across the aisle. Breath held. The cabin shares one long, thin second. The attendant tries to block the door. I can help, Alex says, meeting her gaze, not pushing. Alex Morgan, she adds, low. Viper. The name means nothing to the passengers. It means everything to the part of the world that names storms. The attendant doesn't know why her feet step aside. She just knows that for one beat, the screaming doesn't reach this spot on the carpet. Inside the cockpit, beyond the reinforced door, alarms spit red. But we're not there yet. We're in the space before a verdict. We're inside the question, who is worth believing when the sky is falling? Would you move? Would you trust the quiet person standing up while you are sure sitting is all that's left? Another silent moment. The lights flicker. The whole aircraft seems to inhale. Alex reaches the door. Her knuckles are pale, not from fear, but from precision. She knocks once, firm. A voice answers and breaks. Somewhere forward, someone is bleeding. Somewhere forward, the jet is missing pieces of itself. Somewhere forward, a young first officer is drowning in checklists he can't hold with hands that won't stop shaking. The attendant swipes. The door clicks. Let me, Alex says, stepping through the narrow seam of air between terror and control. I'm taking command. The cockpit is heat and sound and red. Captain James Wheeler slumps against the seat, blood-matting hair at his temple. First Officer Marcus Chen, 26, sweating through his shirt, fights the yoke like it owes him money. The jet shudders under him. Engines are, both, he stammers. He can't finish. Again, no one can. I'm Alex Morgan, she says, sliding in behind them, voice trimmed to the bone. Call sign Viper. Marcus's eyes flick to her, then back to the instruments that look like a pinball machine. Captain's unresponsive. Pulse? She asks the attendant who has edged into the jump seat. Faint, the attendant says, eyes wide. Alex leans in, checks pupils, presses a dressing into the cut. Secure him. Head backboard with coats. You, brace at the door. No one in unless I say. Triage, right there between throttle and fear. Okay, Marcus, she says, a clean line laid across noise. Say what you see. He gulps. Dual engine failure. Hydraulics, losing B and C. A is intermittent. Autopilot won't hold. Airspeed decaying. Nose wants to drop. Good, she nods. We fly it by hand. Her fingers move with polite speed. Battery on the right bus. Cross tie off. Rat handle, she wraps, pulls. A thunk, distant and essential, as a tiny ram air turbine bites the slipstream. The displays shiver, then hold. Limited hydraulics, limited electrics, she says. We're skeleton now. Keep the wings honest. Marcus's breathing evens a notch. How can a stranger do that? How much trust can you build in 15 seconds? Have you ever felt someone step into your panic and make a floor under it? Where? He asks. Toward Midway, she says, not adding compass points, not tempting geography. It buys us a runway. It buys us a chance. She takes the radio, thumb hovering over the guard frequency. She says just enough. Mayday, Mayday. Heavy 777. Dual engine out. Hydraulic degradation. Maneuvering toward Midway. Stand by. No poetry, no biography. Sparse words for a sky that hears everything. Checklist, he says. Clipped, she answers. We won't chase ghosts. Fly. Feel. Follow me. He nods once. They become a small team welded by necessity. She trims a hair. He eases pressure. The nose stops hunting. The descent steadies into a controlled fall you can negotiate with. A held breath sits between them. The RAT whines like a bicycle inside the wall. Outside, the Pacific is all the dark you can imagine. Passengers? She asks. 183 souls, he says. Copy, she murmurs, as if pinning the number to the panel so it won't slide away. Rudder feel? She asks. Mushy. We'll cheat bank with weight, she says. We'll make the airplane want the turn we need. He looks at her. He understands enough. She doesn't explain more than the moment can carry. Alex, he says, trying her name. You really Viper? A half smile that isn't joy. Later, she says. A silent beat. 2 steady breaths. The alarms quiet down to a manageable chorus. All right, she adds, eyes on the fuel synoptics, the weight dancing in green. Marcus, she says, voice softening into steel. We're taking the jet back. He nods, knuckles easing. She lifts her chin at the engineer panel. We need a bias for bank without throwing a control we don't own. He swallows. How? Dump right wing fuel. Now. Fuel arcs invisibly from the right wing, weight turning into wind. The heavy left side settles the jet into a quiet, unwilling lean. Just enough to help the nose obey their wish to turn toward Midway. Watch the balance, Alex murmurs. We borrow bank, we pay control. Marcus rides the yoke like it's a living thing. Flaps 5, she says. No more. The lever slides. A notch. The wings grow teeth. Drag increases. Sink increases. Everything is a trade. Do you count the cost, or do you feel it? Have you ever paid with seconds because you ran out of miles? The rumor from the cabin claws its way forward. 3 minutes to die. Numbers, when screamed, are blunt weapons. Alex's math is a pencil line drawn on a shaking desk. From 37 to sea level, on this profile, figure about 7 minutes if we keep energy clean, she says, mostly to the air, partly to Marcus, partly to herself. 7 is not a promise. Feels like 3, he says. Feels like less, she admits. They work the phugoid. Nose down, speed builds, altitude hemorrhages. Nose up, speed bleeds, Altitude stretches like old taffy. They trade like desperate gamblers, buying distance with tremble and roar. The RAT whines. The airplane shudders. The horizon is a dull bruise. A silent moment fits between two beats of the descent. Alex presses her palm to the glare shield, a private ritual. She doesn't pray. She calibrates. Guard, heavy 777, she transmits, breath leveled. Continuing toward midway. Engines remain out. A carrier voice acknowledges, clipped, distant. No hand to hold on a radio. Just voices in a wire. Hydraulics, she asks. B is nearly gone. C is low. A flickers. We'll keep fingers, she says, meaning the tiny controls the rat can still feed. If we lose them, we fly body language. He half laughs. It sounds like a cough. That a thing. It is now. Minutes bruise thin. The cabin is quieter, not calmer, like a theater that knows the next line could break it. The businessman in 14B clenches and unclenches a fist. A little girl's feet swing above the floor, eyes locked on the mask's yellow cup. Somewhere someone says, she stood up like it was nothing. Stories are already forming bones. Distance. Alex asks. 178 miles. Maybe 173. Drift is ugly. It's in the band, she says. We'll see it soon. The haze parts in a tired way. A pale line appears where the ocean forgets to be endless. Midway emerges. Not a savior. A possibility. The runway is a graphite streak, thin as a scar on water. Marcus swallows. We're short. He taps quick math. Shows her with a trembling finger. Even clean profiles say we're 5 miles short. Profiles weren't written for this, she says. We weren't, either. She steals a little speed, then sells it for another sliver of altitude. The trades continue. She is all edges now, no extra words. Hold it, she says. Another silent pocket. The jet skates air that doesn't want to hold it. The RAT keens. The yoke chatters in his hands. The island grows, but not fast enough. The numbers say what they say. Hope is a runway that keeps stepping back. The island is there, and out of reach. Commit, Alex says. Not loud. Final. Gear down. Marcus hesitates. Drag. Yes, she says. We need the barn doors to make the earth come to us. He drops the gear early. The wheels bite air and howl, adding the ugly drag she wants. The airplane bucks. The descent rate spikes. Flaps 30, she says. This will be violent. He selects. The wing groans. The nose twitches. The cockpit smells like hot plastic and stress. Forward slip, she says. We cross-control into the knife. She feeds in opposite rudder and aileron. The airplane yaws hard, fuselage canted to the wind, profile fat to the relative flow. The shudder moves from rattle to tremor to a living shake. Feels wrong because it is wrong, on purpose. Have you ever done the ugly thing because it's the only true thing left? Would you, if it meant 50 feet of life? The poppy lights glow, a language in red and white. Too high. Then suddenly too low. The runway rushes, a gray tongue licking up from the sea. Hold it, she says. Hold your nerve. His hands lock where she leaves them. She steals a glance at the captain. Still breathing, still out. A silent seam opens. Time narrows. The slip angle is savage. The airframe screams like it wants to come apart. The RAT wails back. The nose hunts and she cages it with fingertips. Autopilot is a dead idea. This is hand and mind only. The foam trucks are small toys. The ocean is teeth. Speed, she asks. Dirty and honest, he says, a ghost of a grin. Good, she answers. The flare window is a postcard she must catch with 2 fingers from a moving car. Uncrab, she says at the last beat. Now. He rolls and feet dance. The airplane straightens in a breath, then kisses the runway on fumes of energy. The main gear thud is a verdict. Spoiler's arm with a reluctant shrug. She leans into reverse that doesn't exist. Engines are dead. Manual brakes, she says. Squeeze. Don't stomp. He squeezes. Tires scream. Rubber burns sweet and terrible. They race down concrete that feels a foot too narrow. The end lights are a wall. The speed tape unwinds without mercy. We're long, he says. We're stopping, she replies. Heat crawls up their shins. The cockpit air is a sauna of triumph and terror. 50 feet to spare. Maybe less. But enough. The aircraft shivers to a halt. The last edge of runway sits under the nose like a cliff edge under a boot toe. Evac, she says. She's already moving. Doors arm. Slides bloom into white miracles. The cabin becomes flow instead of frenzy. People slide, stumble, are caught. The smell of rubber and fear goes outside with them. A child's shoe falls and is snatched by a stranger's hand. The businessman in 14B sits on the tarmac in shock and then starts to laugh, then cry, then laugh again. Marcus sags. His hands shake now that the shaking is allowed. Alex squeezes his shoulder once, the only ceremony they have time for. A silent moment, 2 pairs of eyes, 1 nod, everything unsaid. Alarms still chirp, complaining that life beat their math. The radio crackles, thin as old paper, carrying a voice that was not built for this cockpit and yet was always coming. Viper. The frequency is a corridor of ghosts and friends. Falcon 20, Falcon 21, Falcon 22, picture clean, a clipped voice says, young and sure. Heavy on the deck at midway, confirm you are Viper. Marcus looks at Alex like he's hearing a myth speak English. The businessman in 14B, halfway down a slide a minute ago, stands on the tarmac now and stares at the silver dart shapes beyond the haze, mouths a word he doesn't know. Have you ever watched a name open a door you didn't know was there? Have you ever felt your version of the world tilt? Alex keys the mic. The smallest smile. Falcons, Viper, she says. No rank. No recap. The word folds space. Silence follows, charged and complex. Then laughter that isn't laughter, more like breath released after a decade. We have you, Falcon 21 says, voice softer now. We always did. Recognition ripples the crowd. The flight attendants who defied gravity now defy tears. Someone starts clapping. 14B, of course, palms red from force. Others join until the sound becomes weather. Alex doesn't bow. She nods once, eyes damp and private. Hours blur. The passengers are processed, checked, warmed in blankets that smell like clean storage. The investigation crews arrive with careful hands and fast pens. Words like cascading hydraulic loss and dual-engine failure become chapters instead of curses. Groundings and inspections are triggered across fleets that share bloodlines with this airframe. Somewhere, a maintenance directive is written in a new, stricter font. The ripple is safety. Hickam AFB waits beyond the next horizon. An airlift brings survivors and crew to Hawaii not as heroes but as data, as testimony, as proof that margins are humanity dressed as procedure. On the ramp, sunlight plates everything in military precision. For jets take the sky in a diamond, and then one pulls up and away. The missing man's salute draws a line across blue so clean it hurts. It's for someone breathing. Alex stands at attention, not for cameras but for the 1,000 small shames and prides that make a life. Marcus stands beside her, a little behind. The 14B businessman has bought a bouquet of roses from a base florist and looks ridiculous and perfect. He doesn't speak. He just holds them out. Is there a better apology than showing up with something alive? A silent moment. Jet noise fades. Flags ripple. She closes her eyes once, brief. The call sign hangs in the air and then lands back in her chest. Reporters ask who she is now. She answers with what she will do next. I'm going back to teach, she says. No headlines required. The schoolhouse looks like a hangar with white boards. It smells like dry erase, hydraulics, and burnt coffee. Students arrive wide-eyed and cocky and terrified in the ways they don't know yet. She writes one number on the board, 183. Then she writes another, 7. Rumor said 3, she tells them. Math said 7. Your job is to hear both and fly the truth. She pauses. Lets the room breathe. You never fight the airplane, she says. You negotiate. You tell it who you are. The class listens the way people listen when sky and ground both have your name. After dismissal, she stays alone, palm on the cold aluminum of a training wing, head bowed like in prayer but not in prayer. The hangar holds its breath. Her promise is quiet and binding. To my students, she whispers, and to the runway that almost stepped back too far, and to the call sign that found her anyway. I'll teach you everything I owe the sky, until you can teach me more. Extended thinking.